Now, ladies and gentlemen, please help me give a long overdue welcome home to the men and women who served our nation with dignity and pride and was never garnered the respect and honor they so richly deserved upon their return to their beloved country. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States of America's Vietnam-era veterans. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, will you please stand if you can as we honor America with a presentation of colors and remain standing for our national anthem, the Pledge of Allegiance, and the invocation. Waterford veterans of foreign wars will post the colors. Mike Beauchamp, singer and songwriter, will honor America with the singing of our national anthem. Vietnam veteran Peter Schmidt will deliver the invocation, and Vietnam veteran Joe Micheler will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Color Guard, present the colors.
Color Guard, attention. Forward march. Forward march. Now left, march. All. Right face. Prepare to post. Post colors. Present arms.
National anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Order arms.
Almighty God, we welcome you into this place. We want your presence here with us this morning. Heavenly Father, send forth your grace upon this room, this gathering. Touch each one of us, our families. Heavenly Father, we remember all those who served in Vietnam. We remember especially those who gave everything. We are grateful. So, Father, lead and guide us during this ceremony.
We honor you, we give you praise and glory. In Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Welcome home. Present arms.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order arms. Flag bearer, front and center. Rifleman, forward arms. Rifleman, left face. Flag bearer, right face. To the column march.
Please be seated. Good morning. I'm retired Colonel Frank Walker, and I have the distinct honor and privilege of serving as your Master of Ceremonies for this prestigious event. It is my pleasure to welcome all of our military veterans and their families to this Welcome Home Vietnam's 50th anniversary pinning ceremony to give a long overdue thank you, as well as honor our Vietnam veterans and their families. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me just make a few introductions. I'm going to make them short because I'm going to be introducing most of these folks when they come up and speak. But I was noticing this is the first time I'm a member of the board at Fort Custer National Cemetery on the other side of the state. But let's give the director, Sean Baumgardner, and all of his staff here at this National Cemetery a big round of applause for hosting this event. One of our national treasures. Do we have any Gold Star families? If we do, I'd like to make a special welcome to you and thank you for your sacrifice to this great nation. Any Gold Star families? Okay. Also, today, yes, we do. Thank you very much. God bless you. With us today is the Director of the United States of America Vietnam War Commemoration, Major General United States Army retired James Jackson. Let's give him a big round of applause. Thank you, sir, for coming. With us is Mr. James Robert Redford from the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. Thank you for coming, sir. Our state of Michigan Majority Floor Leader from the 15th District, Mr. Mike Kowal. Joining us today is the superintendent of Holly Area Schools and the son of a Vietnam veteran, Scott Roper. Thank you, sir, for coming. Representing all of our military women who served in this great nation is the Vietnam-era Petty Officer, 3rd Class Hospital Corpsman, Ina Golden. We're also pleased to have a singer-songwriter who did the national anthem, did a great job for us. Mike Beauchamp is with us. Thank you, sir, and he'll be doing another performance later. And I'd like to acknowledge Joe Mishler of the U.S. Army and Vietnam veteran and Holy well, it is Holy here, the Holly Area Veterans Resource Director and his committee for helping organize this event. Thank you, sir. And also the Waterford Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 1008 and Michael Kamal rendering our military honors this morning. Didn't they do a great job, ladies and gentlemen? All right, I think also in attendance today we have a number of political and civic community leaders as well as many representatives from military and veteran service organizations. To ensure I don't miss anyone, if you are a community leader or representing military, veteran, or service organization, would you please stand so we can acknowledge you for your service and support to our community and our military family. Thank you very much. And in the audience today and in cities all over America are many that served their country with dignity and honoring during Vietnam. Our honored guests are Vietnam-era veterans, and next to them are their families, who exemplifies the courage and resolve that define our national character. For their country and their loved ones, they rise to the challenge of multiple deployments and frequent moves. Spouses who care and provide the children in their partner's absence, kids who make new friends and leave known comforts behind. They are the force behind the force, patriots who support their family members in uniform while enriching the communities they call home. Today's ceremony is not all about the veteran, but also about their families, the unsung heroes. And today, when we salute our veterans, we are saluting you as well. Veterans, let's give our families a big round of applause for their sacrifice and thank them for what they do for our country. And of course, we welcome all veterans, regardless if you're a Vietnam-era veteran or if you're a veteran of any war. We thank you certainly for your sacrifice. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to introduce our keynote speaker. I had 5 pages of his bio written. He's certainly a remarkable man, has really accomplished a great deal, but he pulled rank on me, and he gave me his introduction and told me if I didn't introduce him that way, that I might not be a retired colonel much longer. So, he is the director of the United States of America Vietnam War Commemoration, served 31 years in the United States Army starting in 1971. After retiring, he worked as a senior executive for 2 different companies. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Major General James T. Jackson.
No, I didn't tell him to say that. I just made some suggestions. First of all, let me thank you for letting us be part of your event. I've got one of my key workers back here, Master Sergeant Sampson came with us. We bring them along for a variety of reasons. One, they wear the uniform, but 2, we couldn't do the job we do without their help. And he's a big support and has done a great job for us, so I'm really pleased that he was able to spend the torturous day yesterday it took to get to Michigan. You'd have thought it was a strange place, but we flew west to come east. But it was an interesting day. I've been around the country and I've been able to speak at a variety of different locations. I've been to big events and been to small events, but no event is better, or no event is more important than the one we're at today. And the reason is because we have veterans here. It doesn't matter how many. If there's one veteran there, they deserve the thanks from the nation, and that's what we're all about. And so I'm glad to see every one of you here. You all are the superstars today, and we'll try and keep that in focus. I want to thank a couple people. One, Senator Cole. I'll talk a little bit more about him at the end, but he's been one of our staunchest supporters since we started this program, and it's got a lot to do with his desires to participate and be part of the process. It's also partly because Lynn O'Brien works for him, and she's engaged and been very, very active in this program. But the state of Michigan itself has done its share and has done a great job. And so in part, I'm here today to thank those folks in Michigan who have helped us out. The DAR has been extremely active in this state, as with several other partners. We got James Redford, who's here from the VA, the state VA. Very, very important organizations. We're fortunate that across the 50 states, all 50 state VA representatives and heads are part of our program. And I'll talk a little bit about something we did back on 29 March with them. And I want to thank also Sean and his team for what they do here to take care of the veterans on their final act. As I'm apt to say, funerals are not for the dead. Funerals are for the living. and doing them to support those families and to send their veteran off on their final voyage properly is very, very important. And so, Sean, thanks for what you and your crew do. It's great to be here, and thanks for letting us use your facility. And just real quick, thanks to the color guard from the VFW. Again, VFWs are all across the nation, and they do so many different things for us, from recognizing veterans as they're finally laid to rest, and to also be that place where veterans can go share their stories with fellow veterans, which really has a significant impact. And so I thank them for being here. I know some of you are also part of the American Legion. I'll throw them in the mix also. And so thanks for being here and for presenting the colors, which helps dignify most events. And so it's really nice to see you. As you heard, I'm part of the commemoration out of DC, but our country's made a decision years ago to recognize service to the nation at the 50th anniversary of past conflicts. Now, we've done that with World War II. We've done it with Korea. And so Vietnam, without a firm start date, but with certainly a concrete ending, they picked this time period for the 50th anniversary. And those of you who served there know that January of this year was Tet, 50 years ago, which was the high water mark for not only just number of troops, but also for deaths and the volume of deaths in a period of time. So it's appropriate that we're here today to recognize these folks who served overseas and all who served during that time period. Now, my efforts are part of the Department of Defense. I work for the Department of Defense. I've got several layers between me and the Secretary, but essentially this is his program given to him by Congress. And our focus, our number one focus, is to recognize, find, and thank, and help the country find and thank their veterans who served, anyone who served on active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces, and there's reason for that. Active duty U.S. Armed Forces between 1 November 55 and 15 May 75. And those dates are important. I'll be happy to explain them later, but I won't take the time now, but they were picked for a reason. But the people who served during those dates need to be recognized for their service to the nation. Now, we are known as the Vietnam War Commemoration, but we do not commemorate the war. What we are about and what we are here to commemorate today is service. Service to the nation. When the nation called, they asked you to come. Some of you were told to come. Some of you got drafted. But the bottom line is you went, and the country was better off because of that, at least in my opinion, and in the opinion of most Americans today. Now, the small lapel pin that we'll present later on, or that Senator Kowal and his team and others from the state will present, is not to replace service awards given out by the armed services or valor awards that are given out and earned for actions in combat. That pin that you see here is a token from the nation, from the country, thanking you for your service. And that's why it's given out to all veterans who served during that time. Additionally, here just recently, we have started a program where we recognize family members, and one of the family members we recognized are surviving spouses. That's spouses who have, their husband or their spouse has come home, and they have subsequently passed away for any reason. And if we have a spouse here today who fits that category, can I see a hand? We have one, okay. We have a pin here, and I think Ms. Lynn will make sure that happens, and we can do a certificate. I'll give you a blank, and you can fix that up. The purpose there is simple. Those of us who served know we don't serve by ourselves. The family comes with us. You know, there used to be a common adage that the government never issued you a wife, but they get 2 for 1 when they bring you aboard. In many ways, that's true. because the wives do so much in the community. And today, we have now gotten more female service members, so it's spouses. The spouses contribute every day to the health and welfare across the entire country, and specifically for our veterans. Now, our nation committed back in 2012 to basically undo some wrongs that occurred 50 years ago. As mentioned, the Vietnam veterans, the era veterans who served around the world when they came home, were not welcomed back at the same basic way we're doing today. And there's some interesting facts about all that, but the Vietnam veterans were very instrumental in making sure, and they continue to do that today, to make sure these new veterans coming home are in fact being welcomed and not treated the way they were treated. But the country's made a decision here, and it's funny when you travel around and get a chance to see the people out there, you get this sensing there's a conscious decision that what was done years ago was wrong. And the only way to fix that is to go back and try and reset and to thank these veterans for what they did and to welcome them home, and that's what's going on all across the country. We have over 11,000 commemorative partners, similar to the Senator's office today, doing events like this, and I'll explain a little bit more about that that we did on 21 March. We have supported in excess of 13,000 events all across the country. Now, most events we just send materials to, but other events will show up, will participate, and will be there. But essentially, it's your event. This is a local event. Now, this effort across the country, as I mentioned, is recognition of a changing attitude that you might have experienced back in the 60s and 70s. And again, it's recognition that 50 years ago there were some wrongs that needed to be corrected. As many of you probably know, President Trump last year signed into law the identification of 29 March as National Vietnam War Veteran Day. And as such, we were not able, the bill was actually signed on the 28th last year, so we didn't really have a lot of time to prepare anything for the 29th. We had a year to think about what we wanted to do, and we put together some plans. The first thing we did was we did an event down in D.C. at 2:30 in the afternoon on the 29th. We had 3 assistant secretaries from Defense, VA, and Homeland Security down there who basically spoke to the audience and laid a wreath at the wall. And it was recognition that there's 58,000 plus names on that wall who gave everything. And then there's all those who served who gave up most everything or had the opportunity to give up everything and made it through it okay, but they gave up a lot. And there was recognition that brought to all of those at that time. Additionally, across the country, we asked and we received help from everybody that we talked to. We went out and reached all 50 governors and the 6 territorial governors, and we asked them, along with their state VA and with their adjutant generals, to do an event within their state on that day to recognize their veterans. They did that. And here's a little bit of what occurred across the state. As I mentioned, 56 of 56 state and territories did something in their state. 233 military exchanges and commissaries across the world participated. We had 13 TSA locations. Now, that's a small number, but they have 420 locations across the country, and we weren't quite sure how they were going to support this. So we picked 13 locations in California, Texas, and Virginia, and we did a test, and they did very well. So we're going to be reaching out to 420 here over the next year. We did 724 VA locations across the country. 21 congressional offices participated. And then 256 of our regular commemorative partners stepped up also. Total locations across the country was 1,361 on 29 March. We shipped out in excess of 180,000 pins. Over 900,000 items were shipped. And that equated to about 1,500 FedEx packages that we sent out all across the country. Now, as of today, we've reached about 2.2 million of those veterans. And I only share this information to reinforce what I've already said. This is a national program. This is going on all across the country. Today, there's an event in Michigan. Tomorrow, there'll be one in Biloxi and someplace else. It just goes on, and it's happening, and it's doing very well. We will support in excess of 3,000 events this year to reach these veterans in their hometowns, right where they live and work, so that the people who know them get a chance to thank them. Now, along with all that success, we've got some continuing challenges, one of which we're losing Vietnam-era veterans at a rate of over 500 a day. That's 500 a day. Now, you can sit down and do, as I refer to it, Ranger math, and you can do the mathematics here, and you can see the number we're losing every day. When we started with a little over 7 million that we needed to find. Today, we're down to 6.6. And by the time we finish, we'll be in the 5s. So we're losing them every day. And the challenge to us is a simple one. Don't let one of these veterans go to their grave without experiencing the country's gratitude. And so today, that's what's going to happen. And it's going to happen with your people thanking you, not some nobody coming out of Washington. And so that's why this is special. I need your help too. I'm going to reach out to the veterans here primarily. I need your help. Each of you know veterans. You're associated with veterans. You talk to them all the time. I will imagine every one of you have some veteran friends who are not here today. I need your help to get them to events like this. I can provide someone to make the thanks go, but they've got to have someone to thank. And we're assuming that at the end of this day, at the end of this event, we're going to have about 2 million that are just not going to come to anything. And that's a real shame. So I'm pleading with the veterans out there, find your friends, talk to them, embarrass them, do whatever you got to do. Tie them up, hog tie them, hook them to the back of your Harley or whatever you're going to do. Drag them to events, make them come. They will appreciate it. They'll be happy they did. Trust me. One last thing I want to share with the veterans who are here today, because I think it's important you hear it from all of us, all the citizens across the country, that number one, we do salute all veterans, but we're in that special period now for the Vietnam veterans. So I want to speak to them specifically and share with you the fact that your service during your time in uniform is certainly worthy our recognition and our gratitude. But there's more to it. There's things you have done since you've come home. Those of you either stayed in the military or left. There's things you have done in your local communities or wherever it is you've lived that continue to add to society and help this country. And for that, we're deeply thankful. Your selfless service that you provided back in the 60s and 70s, though, is still needed today. And what you're doing by influencing the next generation as you reach out to them will cause them to provide that same selfless service to the country. Because for sure, one of the things I can guarantee you, every generation this country has will be tested. Every generation will be offered their unique chance to serve. Somewhere, someplace, somehow, it's going to happen. And we're going to need them to step up. They'll only do that knowing that the country takes care of its veterans. And so that's what we're trying to do here today. So to the veterans and their families, thank you for what you've done. You've made a difference in all our lives, our children's lives, and you continue to do that every day. And so we thank you very much for that. I also just, again, thank all of you for taking the time out of your schedules to be here. And right now, I'd like to recognize two people, though I've come this way for a variety of reasons. One, I want to touch the veterans, but there's two people here that are special to my organization because we can't do it from Washington, D.C. My reach goes about that far. I need to reach into Michigan, and I do that through partners. And there's two people here that need to be recognized. First up is Miss Lynn O'Brien. Lynn, can you come up, please? She doesn't know this is going to happen, so you're going to have to watch her a little bit here. But Lynn has been a great supporter, as I mentioned earlier. And on behalf of my organization, I want to read a certificate here to you and share some words that we think need to be said about Miss Lynn. This is the Department of Defense Vietnam War Commemoration Certificate of Appreciation to Miss Lynn O'Brien, Director of District Affairs. On behalf of the Department of Defense and the United States of America Vietnam War Commemoration, thank you for being a proud partner and serving as chairperson to one of our most active commemorative partners in the state of Michigan. Your immeasurable contributions and dedication to the mission, to our mission, and our primary congressional objective to thank and honor Vietnam veterans and their families was superb. Your service to the primary chairperson for the state Senator Cowell should be emulated by all our partners as you raise the bar of excellence in execution of your duties. Through your passion and compassion for the mission and superb customer service skills, you were able to ensure that insurmountable support was provided during multiple events and activities. Your professionalism and dedication have earned you the respect and gratitude of the commemoration's leadership. Thank you for all you have done for this noble mission. And if I could give her more, I would, but this is about all I have to give, and that's our thanks. And so on behalf of everybody, thank you. You're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Now, as you all can probably think, there's one other guy in that office. Senator Mike Cole has been a great friend of this commemoration. Now, rumor has it he's leaving office here later this year, and he told me that he wanted me to come to his last event. So tell me when it is, and I'm here. I'm here in part to thank veterans, but also to thank him for what he's done. We've already given his office certificates and coins and so forth, so what I decided to do was write him a letter, and I want to read that. Sir, if you'd come up, please. Now, again, he's going to have a lot of these kinds of things on his wall, and one from an obscure two-star general retired is not going to fit probably quite as well as some of them he's going to get. But this is from the heart because, again, we can't do our mission without folks like this. And so here's my letter. Senator Cowell, on the occasion of your departure from public service as the Michigan State Senate Majority Floor Leader, the United States of America Vietnam War Commemoration offers you our sincerest gratitude for your positive role model, support, and interest in our mission. Your steadfast support to the nation's veterans has been an example to all, and your actions and deeds have set a new standard for all of us to follow. Every Michigan veteran owes you their gratitude for the dedicated service you have provided and your support for veterans' issues. The level of interest you have shown to our veterans and their needs has been inspiring. You have made a major difference in their lives and the welfare of their families. No veteran could have a better friend or teammate than Senator Mike Cowell. Your personal efforts and involvement have reaffirmed the firm commitment from the state of Michigan to properly care for our veterans and their families. Thank you for all that you do every day, and thank you for being such a strong ally. It has been a pleasure working with you and your staff, and we all continue to acknowledge the value our veterans have delivered to our nation and the state of Michigan. Please accept our appreciation and best wishes from every member of this commemoration for all of your attention and support. You have earned our respect and our friendship.
Thank you, General.
My pleasure. You're very welcome. Thank you, sir. You earned it. Thank you again. God bless all of you. God bless Michigan and the United States. It's great seeing all the smiling faces of the veteran community here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your service, and thank you for all your continued service to our veterans. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is the director of the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. He's a lawyer, served as a Kent County Circuit Judge from 2003 to 2015. In addition to active duty, he served 23 years in the Navy Reserves, retiring as a captain. Please welcome to the podium a gentleman who is a strong advocate of all of our military veterans and their families, the director of the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency, Director James Robert Redford.
Thank you, Colonel. My younger brother is a retired Air Force colonel, and I can finally tell him, hey, I actually got an Air Force colonel to do something I asked him to do. I keep it short. But it wasn't that short, so next time. It's my privilege to be here. Thank you. Welcome home to our Vietnam veterans. Welcome home to your families. It's good to see so many of you here today. I have 3 corrections, though, I wanted to make of General Jackson. And a Navy captain doesn't get to correct a Major General from the Army very often. So the first correction is that in the food chain and the Table Organization General in Senator O'Brien's office, Senator Kowal's office, obviously Lynn O'Brien is the reporting senior, and Senator Kowal, is the one who's having to do the work for her because she makes the trains run on time. Senator Kowal's leadership is great, but Lynn makes it work. So that was correction number 1. Correction number 2, the general is a remarkable leader, remarkable American. And I wanted to correct his misstatement of a nobody from Washington coming out here to Michigan doesn't add that much. General, you're far from a nobody from Washington. When the Pentagon was attacked, when the Twin Towers went down, the commander of Naval District Washington, D.C., was the man who's sitting right here. He secured the area, he protected American lives, and he did it for 31 years with distinction. And it is a privilege for us to have you here, sir. And in a short conversation with him beforehand, he's coming back to Michigan next week as well. We hope your flights are a little bit better, but we appreciate everything you do for Michigan. Let's give a hand to the general, please. The third thing I was going to talk about was Air Force colonels, but I already said that. So in substantively and in all seriousness, it is my distinct privilege and pleasure to be here. In a little over 2 weeks from today, our nation will pause to remember, to celebrate, and to commemorate 242 years of independence of our republic from a time when our predecessors in interest drew a line in the sand and said, we will be citizens, not subjects. We will govern our own path with the rights that God Almighty gave us and the power of a unified citizenry. And for 242 years, throughout the entire history of our republic, when we paused to reflect on the sacrifices of our sisters and brothers who wore the cloth of our nation, who bore the burden of battle, who bore the burden of the absence of a loved one, time and time and time again, generation after generation, our nation got it right and commemorated properly and thanked appropriately those who gave of themselves, who sacrificed, and those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. We got it right every time but once. And the one time we did not get it right was for those of our sisters and brothers who from 1955 until 1975 put on the cloth of this country, bore the burden at home and abroad, fought in places no one had ever heard of and that many don't remember. We did not get it right. And that is why we are here today. And that is why we are here in the 13,000 other places that the General referred to in the history of this commemorative process to show our thanks as a nation and as a state for the service and sacrifice for those who served in country in Vietnam and for those who served in the Vietnam era. If you were in the combat arms in Vietnam for 1 year, on average, you served 240 days contact with the enemy. 240 out of 365 days of your service, it was in contact with the enemy on average for those who were in country in combat arms. That is in comparison, and not to criticize by any means. I myself am not a combat veteran. I have not been tested by that crucible. So I do not mean, with what I'm to say next, to in any way criticize those who went before me or those who served in the Second World War. But by comparison, in the Pacific Theater in the Second World War, on average, over a 4-year period, you would have experienced 40 days of contact with the enemy. 58,000 of our sisters and brothers who served in Vietnam did not come home. 9,087,000 Americans served during the Vietnam War era. If you served in country in Vietnam, 1 out of every 10 service members was either killed or injured. 1 out of 10 of every single last service member who served in country. There were 240 Medal of Honor winners recognized. Until recently, that number is now 242. The most recent 2 Congressional Medal of Honor, not winners, recipients, come from right here in Michigan, Doc McLaughlin and Colonel Kettles. I don't know if you've had the privilege of meeting them. More humble, more individuals with a servant's heart. I don't know that I'll ever have the privilege to meet in my lifetime. Yet brave, historic accomplishments, just like every other woman and man who wore the uniform during that time period. In places like Khe Sanh, Hamburger Hill, Fire Support Base Ripcord, the Brownwater Navy, any number of aviation bases throughout the Pacific. The sacrifice was great. The commitment was great. As it was the service of every other individual, even if they were not in country in Vietnam. Whether you were stationed overseas in Germany to serve to stop the Soviet Union from expanding, and your work took down the Berlin Wall, and your work reunited a free Europe, or whether you served in the United States, your work too, standing the watch, being ready, answering the bell when you were called, is something this nation is grateful for. Just 2 weeks ago, my wife and I had the privilege of going out west for a sort of national parks and mountain trip. We've never done it before. It was wonderful. We drove because we were going to go to a whole bunch of places. I was struck on our trip home in Boulder, Colorado. We stopped at a Chick-fil-A for supper on a Friday. And we're going to make the power drive back to Michigan because I got to be at work on Monday. And I'm wearing, as I frequently do, a shirt that says Navy on it. Just a Columbia sports shirt. And this young man walked up to me after he'd completed his meal, and I saw his, probably, I figured it was his grandfather, was a guy there in a pair of Navy sweatpants. This young man walked over to me in Colorado, never been in the state before in my whole life other than to stop for aircraft stops in Denver. And he said, "Sir," I said, "Yes." He goes, "Thank you for serving our country." And that touches me. And I said it was a privilege to serve. Every day I had the privilege of wearing our uniform was a privilege. And thank you for recognizing that. And I said, "You know what? Is that your grandfather over there?" And he said, "Yes, it is." I said, "Go thank your grandpa too, because he led the way." And when you all came back, that didn't happen. And that is a fundamental stain on us as a nation that we have to cleanse. And that cleansing of the stain takes place by things like this today and moving forward together. I have one thing I want to ask our veterans to remember. You don't have to remember anything else I say from today. In our state agency, we are there for you 24/7, 365 days a year. If you have any questions about service-related benefits that your service to this great nation earned, you and your family, remember one thing, call this phone number. It is an advertisement, but it's for service. 1-800-MISH-VET. That's all you got to remember. 1-800-MISH-VET. Or go to the web, use your internet browser, and search for Michigan Veterans Affairs. We may not have the solution or the answer, but we're going to work with you to find it. And if you haven't spoken to a VA counselor from the federal level in a long period of time, maybe you didn't get a great answer the first time, call us and we'll help walk through the process. Or we'll refer you out to one of our great veteran service officer partners, like the General said, the Legion, the VFW, Disabled Veterans of America, Order of Purple Heart, Marine Corps League, you name it. Please call us. We are there for you. Final thing I want to tell you from the agency perspective, August 1st, we're submitting with the federal VA the paperwork necessary to establish a veterans home in Southeast Michigan. And I want to thank the people of Holly who put together a wonderful presentation. We ultimately did not select to go to Holly at this time, but your community stood tall for veterans like it does in every possible effort. It was impressive, it was committed, and it was dedicated, and we were honored to be offered the opportunity to be here. We're hopeful that we're able to make a public announcement of the location of it. We're optimistic, and we're looking to build 5 more homes over the next 5 to 20 years. So we are committed to expanding the footprint of our residential care for our veterans. One final note on the veterans care. I'm very pleased to report the VA measures our veterans homes on 231 categories every year. The Grand Rapids home and the Jacob Eddy home received perfect scores this year for the first time ever in the history of the state of Michigan because of the support of our VSOs and because of our great staff. We are committed to our veterans that we have the privilege of serving and to the residents that we serve and their families. So thank you for that support, especially our VSOs. Final comments. As the General said, every one of our future generations will have their day where someone or some nation or some entity lays down the gauntlet and says, will you stand or will you not stand? You, singularly, Vietnam-era veterans, have the opportunity to prepare future generations of Americans by telling your story of service, by telling of the story of sacrifice that you made, that your loved ones made, that your comrades made, and especially of those comrades who didn't come home. You can tell them about the greatness of America, where kids from Watts and some farm guy from Iowa and some guy who grew up in the middle of Michigan got together, formed a unit, defended each other, defended freedom, defeated communism. You can help prepare them, but it can only happen if you have that conversation. And when they don't want to talk about it, keep talking about it. And go to schools, and go to your churches, and go to your community foundations, and tell the story of your service. So the one mistake of the recognition of our service members that took place in our nation never takes place again, so that we will always have women and men like you who stand up, answer the call, and defend freedom wherever needed worldwide, as we are a free nation and the best hope for this free world. God bless each of you, God bless the great state of Michigan, and God bless our great nation and all our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for all you do for our Vietnam veterans and all of our veterans. Now, Mike Beauchamp will lead us in the singing of God Bless America.
Folks, I just want to say one thing real quick before we do this. I grew up as a teenager watching the Vietnam War on the little black and white television at dinner time, and it ripped my heart out. Every day they give numbers on all the people, the men and women who died. And it really hit home when hometown boy Frank Belcher died in Vietnam. So I'd like to ask all of you to sing with me, God Bless America. God bless America, land that I love, stand beside through the night with the light from above, from the mountains, through the prairies, through the valleys, white with old. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
You know, it's only fitting you hear me talk about families that our next speaker is a family member, the son of a Vietnam veteran. He was recently appointed as the new superintendent of the Holly area schools. Prior to that, he was assistant superintendent of education of Holly area schools. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podium Scott Roper.
Thank you, Colonel, and thank you to everyone for being here today. I'm honored to be here speaking with you on such an important occasion. I'm not a military veteran, however, my father, Al Roper, was. He served in the U.S. Army in the mid-60s and fought in Vietnam in 1965 as a member of the Big Red 1, the 1st Infantry Division. Among his many loves was his dedication to our country and his respect for all his fellow servicemen and women. For years, my dad proudly wore his Vietnam veteran hat and displayed a license plate in the front of his truck with the Combat Infantry badge. It was not uncommon for my father to make new friends in his travels as he would meet and talk with other veterans while we were on trips. Mom and I would, be introduced to people and be told stories along the way, and he would enjoy sharing that with myself and our family members. Sadly, my father passed away unexpectedly on January 25th, 2015. My mother, Marge, and my dad would be celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary this coming November. I asked my mom to attend today. She's here with us. And she's here with my wife, Jennifer. I want to thank them both for being here to be a part of this great event to honor our veterans. My mom would attest to the fact that as a child, my dad insisted on instilling certain fundamental qualities and values. For that, I'm forever grateful. Those values of courage, pride, determination, selflessness, and dedication are found in all of our veterans here today. I remember my uncles telling a story a few years back. My dad had 6 siblings. His family had very little and moved several times while they grew up. When my dad was at war, he sent nearly all of his earnings back home so that his brothers would have decent clothes to wear to school and mom could pay the bills. In fact, after the war, my dad had ended up taking over payments of the home and the property. This is what he knew. He gave to others. We're here celebrating our veterans today because you answered the nation's call of duty. This is what you knew. You gave to others, you gave up your safety, in your security to fight for ours. You had the courage to defend our honor and our country. We're here today to honor our heroes, men and women who have made our armed forces the most respected in the world. Today's gathering is just one way we can show our gratitude to all of you who rose up to protect our great nation, and because of you, we're able to live in a country with basic rights and freedoms. My father would be proud of what the Holly Area Veterans Resource Center provides to our military servicemen and women. I want to thank them for what they do to support all of you. He'd also be very thankful and appreciative of today's honorary event. I appreciate Mr. Redford's comments about our nation getting it right except for one time. I remember hearing that from my father many times. I know he would enjoy this event today. And in closing, I want to thank my father for giving me the values and ethics that have given me the ability to be a leader in education. I look forward to passing on those values and ethics to my own child someday. I want to thank all of you for protecting my rights and freedoms so I may pursue my dreams. And thank you for your service to our country. God bless you, and God bless your families.
Thank you, Scott. I can tell that Holly got that correct when they selected you as superintendent of the school system. Great. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we couldn't have a ceremony without one of our very special musical selections. Please welcome Mike Now, who will lead us in the Armed Forces Medley. Now, when he does this, I want you to stand or raise your hand if you can't stand, if you're a member of that branch or a family member. So let's have a little fun with it. Mike?
Morning. I'll be doing this on harmonica. And I'm going to pause between each one of the songs. Call out which branch that I intend, the song from that branch I intend to play next. So let's start out with the Army. Anyone from the Army? You and your families, if you'd please rise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. One more time, ladies and gentlemen. Wasn't that outstanding? I don't know how they do all that musical stuff, but hey. Well, certainly our next speaker really requires no introduction if you've read anywhere or been around any of these pinning ceremonies, because I think he was the pioneer of the pinning ceremonies. Certainly a friend of mine. I've now had the privilege and distinct honor of emceeing a number of events that he's at. But ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce State Senator Mike Kowal. Mike was first elected in Michigan Senate in 2010. Now he's in second term. He serves as our majority floor leader, and there's no bigger champion than the Vietnam veteran than Mike Kowal. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Kowal.
Well, thank you very much for being here today. It's so important that we remember the Vietnam era veterans. What more fitting place could we do a pinning than amongst all your brothers and sisters that are out here in their final resting place? And many of them were Vietnam veterans. We commemorate everything that they've done over the years. Lynn and I have gone all over the state, and it all started in a little, just a little welcoming ceremony that we did for some World War II veterans. And they were in our office, and we took them on a little tour of the Capitol building, and we got pizza for them, and somebody had to drive them out. And Lynn noticed that the driver was a Vietnam veteran. And when she was preparing certificates of thanks for the World War II people, she prepared one for him. And I called him up to the office, and we gave him all the certificates. And when that happened, he had that look on his face, like just been scared by something. He came up to me, he had tears in his eyes, and he said, Senator, he said, no one's ever said thank you to me, ever. So we were walking back to the office, and this was probably, Lynn figures it was a fateful day because it just meant she had a lot more work to do. But I said, we can't let this go undone. That really got me. And we decided to do a pinning ceremony. Well, it didn't start out as a pinning ceremony because we didn't know about the pins until Lynn found out. And then we put together an invite, and we sent them out. We had no idea who was going to show up. We had people from the VA there. We had groups of folks. We had General Stone, General Vadnais. People were there to celebrate this. And we had 2,000 people show up. We had 2,000 people on the front lawn. And there were some people were there, and I noticed that there's, some typical looking Vietnam veterans, they, hair was long, they had beards, some of them wearing biker jackets, and there was 4 guys lined up. And one of them turned around, and he looked at the guy behind me, says, "Are you so-and-so?" And the next thing you know, all 4 of these guys left the same LZ in some boondock in Vietnam. They flew out together on a helicopter. From there, they were transported to a transport ship. They ended up in Hawaii, and they never saw each other again until that day in front of the Capitol building. You talk about fate. It was funny, they all turned to each other. They all said, "I thought you were dead." And they reunited, and that was important. And that took my breath away, and I had to speak right after that, and it just completely blew my whole format. But, it just gives you an idea how important these things are. But mostly, I couldn't do what I like to do unless I have Lynn with me. She has been the driving force. She's the one that, when I said, you know what, I'm tired, I can't do, she'll, no, yeah, you can, come on, we got to do it, we got to keep going. But she's the one that deserves 99% of the recognition. I'm just the icing on the cake. But, you know, the Vietnam veterans, you paved the way for our modern warriors. And I see we have one that joined us here today. Captain James, you want to stand up, let everybody take a look at you? It was an Apache helicopter? Cobra. Yeah. Apache helicopter combat pilot, and you know, it's a pleasure to get to know him over the years. And just in case you haven't seen his TV commercials, he is running for an office. So, but you paved the way for the new modern warriors, because you taught the military, you taught the public how not to treat veterans, what not to do. You know, don't wear your uniform off base. You know, don't let anybody know that you're a veteran. Don't talk about it. Let your hair grow long. Blend in. No, you all are standing out. You're all standing out because you're all stars. And I just want to take this opportunity, and this is probably going to be one of my last formal pinnings like this, but I just want to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for your service and the service of your family, because they made the sacrifices as well. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you, God bless you, and welcome home.
Thank you, sir. I'd love to let my hair grow long, but I've been working on it. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce someone who I can see eye to eye to. That is really remarkable. You're going to have to follow me wherever I go. So, she represents all of the outstanding women who have served our great nation. She's a Vietnam-era veteran. She entered the United States Navy in 1973 at the age of, we won't mention. She served as a hospital corpsman and was honorably discharged as a third-class petty officer, E4. She served in Vietnam and in Italy. Ina is a semi-retired nurse, right? You still do a little bit of part-time, right? She teaches, lectures, and is heavily involved in her community. She's a board member with the Holly Area Veterans Resource Center. Ladies and gentlemen, a tall, dynamic speaker, Ina.
Every veteran has a story to tell. I'm a Navy veteran of the Vietnam era. I was not in country. And I served again as a hospital corpsman, first at the submarine base in New London, Connecticut, and then a support staff for a submarine tender on La Maddalena, Sardinia, off the coast of Italy. There are fewer of us in the military now, and most of the non-military people respect us for what we did and our service. But you can see some of them are uneasy, and they just kind of don't know what to say when they see us with our military ball caps and pins and hats and shirts. In their minds, their internal conversation might go something like this. There's a military guy or gal. I wonder what he did. Should I thank him for his service? What if he has PTSD? What if thanking him reminds him of some awful things and that makes him feel bad? I don't want to do that. I'll just not pay attention. There. It's best just to ignore him. But still, and then he's gone. And so speaking to the non-military people in the audience, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, it's okay to recognize us. Here's a script you can start with. Thank you for your service. What branch, unless it's obvious? When did you serve? Where did you go? What did you do? If you can, tell me a story. Every veteran has a story, and it's their story, and only they can tell it. If you ask a few questions and show that you understand, they'll probably be very pleased. If you know a little of history and geography, it will help you grasp the context. He or she will fill in the details, and if you actively listen, they will paint the picture for you. Why do I ask you to do this? Because telling their story gives relevance to what they did. Telling their story enables them to feel the pride or the humor or the camaraderie, the toughness, the strength, and the grit of their time in the military. Even when told humbly, an observant listener can see through the sacrifice, the patriotism, and the idealism that were an underlying part of their story. Sharing memories will ensure that their service will not be forgotten and their lives mattered. So, when the time is right, repeat. Thank you for your service. What branch were you in? When did you serve? Where did you go? What did you do? Tell me your story, because every veteran has a story to tell.
Thank you, Ina. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Michael Kamal. The Elf Curafay Highlighters, as a member of it, will perform Amazing Grace. Okay, let me set the stage for the rest of our program. Before that, let me thank a few people that have made this successful for us today. Again, our host, the Great Lakes National Cemetery, and all of their crew. Let's give them another big round of applause. Senator Colwell and Lynn O'Brien, outstanding again as always. Thank you very much. The Waterford VFW 1008, thank you very much for all you do. The Holly Area Veterans Resource Center, thank you. And Joe Mishler, thank you. Outstanding program. Ray Fenning and everyone who helped out and participated. Let's give them all a big round of applause. Thank you, General, for flying all the way here from out east and for what you do for all of our veterans. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what we'll do is we're going to have the pinning ceremony, but let me walk you through it just a little bit here. First of all, they'll be presented by State Senator Colwell, and Major General Jackson will assist, as well as Mr. Redford. They'll be assisted by Lynn O'Brien and Ina Golden, who will help out. After that, you'll come up here by the podium. This is your chance and fame. Raise your hand, Johnny. They'll be on national television tonight, nightly news. Was it Fox or ABC? Oh, Access Vision, I'm sorry, okay. But anyway, we'd ask you to come up because it's important that we recognize each and every one of you. So all you have to do is come up here at the microphone, I'll be up here with you, give your name, branch of service, and the years you served. That's all we're asking, but we want to make sure that you each have your time as we welcome you home. Okay, now, you got to promise me that you'll go back, sit down after you get your pin, and the family members will be there, you can take pictures, whatever, because after the pinning ceremony, we'll have military honors. Okay? So this does not conclude it. We need to come back to our seats so we can do this in a dignified way and in this very prestigious ceremony with military honors. Okay? So if I can have the participants come up here. All righty. Okay, and what you'll do is if you're a Vietnam veteran, you'll just sort of come up here. When you're through, you'll come right over and see me and give me your name and the branch of service and the years you've served. Okay, so don't be shy. Go ahead and get into the... Got to be the guinea pig.
I got to be the guinea pig, all right. Joe Mishler, B Company, 4th Battalion, 23rd Infantry Regiment, Vietnam, 1967.
Don't be shy, dear. Come on up here.
Sherry Funk, Women's Army Corps, 74 to 75.
All right.
My name is William Epplett. I was in the Army in Vietnam, 1970-71.
All right. Welcome home, my man.
Sir, appreciate it. What?
Name?
Don Brooks.
Service?
Army Specialist 4th Class.
And what year you served?
62 to 65.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome home, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sound off, James.
John James, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, in Pleiku, South Vietnam, 1966, 1969. Thank you.
Welcome home, man. Welcome home.
Dennis Benaway, 1968 through 72, United States Navy, all over the world.
All righty. God bless. All right. Welcome home.
Thank you. James Golden, U.S. Navy, Desron 2, second to none. 71 to 75.
Right.
My name is Ray Fenning, 1959 to 63. Spent 2 years, 9 months, 15 days in the Far East, flying on radar airplanes, doing fleet coverage.
Welcome home, man.
Specialist 5, Patrick Miles, United States Army, from 1968 to 70. Served 365 days in Vietnam with the 245th Aviation Unit at Marble Mountain Air Facility.
Dale Pickett, U.S. Army, 63 to 66.
Welcome home, my man.
E4 David Shin with the Army, 65 to 67.
Welcome home, my man. Thank you.
My name is Ron Hinman, 61 through 69, Navy, and also I consider myself Marine because I've done both camps, Camp Lejeune and Great Lakes.
Larry Harris, 9th Infantry, what year?
66, 68, benefits.
1966 and 1968, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I know you.
I always had aspirations.
Peter Schmidt, right?
The only rank I ever wanted to be was a full bird. Peter Schmidt, Army, 1966, 1968.
All right, Peter.
Thank you for your service.
Brad Harris, U.S. Army, 1966 through 68.
Welcome home.
Thank you very much. My name is Michael Jonsenius. I was in the Army in Vietnam in 70 and 71.
All right, thank you. Hey, Lynn, have her come up. Did you want to come up, ma'am? No, no. Well, thank you for your sacrifice, dear.
She's gonna come up.
Oh, okay, come on up, dear. The general said so. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
got a speaker.
That's all right. Just give him your name.
Okay, I'm Marge Roper. I am the mother of Scott Roper. That's the superintendent of Holly, and I really appreciate that I got to come, that Scott asked me to come today, because I live like near Pinconning, Michigan. I'm way up there. So thank you very much.
Well deserved, and thank you, sir, for making sure that our widows are honored as well, with all the sacrifices that our family members do. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, for our Vietnam-era veterans. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Waterford VFW Post 1008 and Michael Kamal will conduct military honors. Thank you. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending. Get the word out. If someone doesn't have a Vietnam-era pin, make sure you get word out so we can get them one. I'll be on July 17th. I'm going to go to nursing homes at the western part of the state and make sure that our Vietnam veterans there get pinned as well. God bless all of our veterans, God bless our families, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.
Access Vision. Your voice, your community.